You know, there are nights that stick with you. No matter how many years go by, no matter how many services you run, no matter how many dishes you plate, there's that one night you just can't shake. I've been in this business over 30 years. Started as a dishwasher when I was a kid, back when kitchens were sweatboxes, and you learned fast or you were out. Worked every station you can think of. Now I'm running my own kitchen right here in Manhattan, at a spot that, well, let's just say, if you know, you know. We're not fancy with stars and plaques, but the people that matter, they come here. Actors, CEOs, chefs on their day off, real food people. And trust me, that's more pressure than any star. So yeah, after all this time, you'd think nothing surprises you anymore. You'd think you've seen it all, crazy requests, wild clients, kitchen fires, you name it. But there was this one night. One of those VIP bookings you can't mess up. Private table, off-menu requests, the whole 9 yards. And man, that evening, that one order, it turned into a complete nightmare. A lesson I'll never forget. And yeah, it started out simple enough. Just another busy Saturday, service in full swing, tickets flying. And then, boom, one call from the front of house that changed the whole energy. You'll see what I mean. Because even now, when I think about that night, I still get that knot in my stomach. Still hear the line cooks going quiet for a beat. Still remember the look my sous chef gave me. Like, this is bad. I'm telling you, stick around for this one. It's a story that'll make you think twice about what goes on behind that kitchen door. Oh, and hey, if you love these kinds of real kitchen stories, you know what to do. Hit that like button, leave me a comment. Maybe tell me your own kitchen nightmare. And yeah, subscribe if you haven't yet. Alright, let's get into it. So, a little about me, so you know who's talking here. Like I said, been doing this a long time. Over 3 decades in kitchens. But you know what? I never planned to be a chef. No culinary school dreams, no TV shows, none of that. I grew up right here in New York, Queens, small apartment, hardworking parents. When I was 16, I needed a job, and my uncle got me a gig washing dishes at this old-school Italian joint in Brooklyn. Place was loud, busy, smelled like garlic and would smoke. And man, first week, I thought I'd quit. Burned hands, soaked clothes, chef yelling every 5 minutes. But something about it stuck with me. The rhythm of it. The adrenaline of service. The way a kitchen breathes, like a living thing. You either hate it or you love it. I loved it. So I stayed. Learned fast, too. Moved up, prep cook, line cook, saute, grill, you name it. I worked every type of spot, diners, bistros, fine dining, clubs, pop-ups, and I took pieces from all of it. Never stopped learning. Never stopped hustling. You gotta have that in this game. Over time, I built my style. You'd call it seasonal American with a global edge, but really, it's food I'd want to eat. Big flavors, clean plates, always with respect to the ingredients. No gimmicks. And yeah, now I run this kitchen here in Manhattan. We're not a big name on the food scene, but in the know folks, they know us. We get regulars that been coming for years. And new faces every week. It's a good place. Tight team. My sous chef's been with me 6 years. Most of the line guys 3 or more. We run a clean, hard kitchen. No ego, no games. You work, you show up, you give your best. Simple as that. And me? Well, I guess I'm a little old school. Respect the craft. Respect the team. I'm tough but fair. At least, that's what they tell me. You show me you care about the food, I'll teach you everything I know. But you slack? You're out. No room for that here. And yeah, I still work the line most nights, not just calling tickets. I believe if you're gonna lead, you lead by example. You get in there, sleeves up, tasting, plating, sweating like everybody else. That's how we do it. And that's why, when this night happened, when that one order came in, it hit hard. Because this wasn't some random table. This was someone who mattered. Someone who knew food. And when things started going sideways, well, let's just say it tested everything I thought I knew about running a service. But I'll get to that. Stick with me. Because this one got personal. It was a crisp October evening in Midtown Manhattan, and the air outside our little gastro-pub felt electric, like the city itself was holding its breath. Inside, the dining room was humming with anticipation. Hushed conversations over candlelight, the clink of wine glasses, the soft murmur of our regulars settling in for a night of bold flavors. In the kitchen, we were already 10 tickets deep before 6 p.m. rolled around, the line cooks moving like a well-oiled machine. My sous chef, Maria, was shouting out times on sauté and grill, her brow furrowed in that familiar mix of focus and determination that's the hallmark of someone who's been in the trenches as long as I have. To my left, Tony, the guy who's been running the guard manger station since he was 20, was carefully plating a beet and citrus tranche, his hands steady despite the pressure. And just outside the swinging doors, Jenna, our maitre d', was fielding last-minute requests at the host stand, her voice calm and assured even as she reminded me that the VIP table would arrive in 10 minutes exactly. We'd prepped for weeks, a seasonal menu that showcased hyperlocal produce, crispy pork belly with quince glaze, a take-no-prisoners mushroom ragu, and a pumpkin spice panna cotta that even my toughest critics had raved about. The floor plan was tight, the kitchen tighter, but we'd thrived in chaos for decades. That's where I felt most alive, right in the eye of the storm. Tonight, though, there was something different in the air. You could almost taste it, like the faint tang of ozone before a storm hits. My team seemed to sense it too. Maria paused mid-flip of a scallop, Tony straightened in his station, and even Jenna, who usually never flinched, glanced back at the kitchen with raised eyebrows. "Boss," Maria said, handing me a yanked-together ticket with neat handwriting that belied the urgency scribbled in bold. 3 courses, off-menu requests, and get this, one dish featuring an ingredient I'd never worked with before. I looked at the line, at the brigade sweating it out in the glow of the fryers, and time slowed. In that moment, every muscle in my body tensed, and my mind leapfrogged through every service I'd ever run. "All right," I said, voice low but steady, "let's see what this is all about." And as Maria slid the ticket across the pass, I felt that familiar knot twist in my gut. That's the trigger, when something unplanned lands on your station and you realize you're playing for keeps, not just for another busy night. Because in this kitchen, if you don't adapt fast, you lose more than a ticket. You lose the trust of every cook sweating beside you and every diner waiting out front. So we did what we always do. Leaned in, locked eyes for a split second, and got to work. But this time, the challenge that hit us was unlike anything I'd seen before, and it was about to test everything I thought I knew about leading a team through the heat of service. Stick around, because the story really takes off from here. Just as we thought we had everything under control, the first domino fell, and it fell hard. Our VIP party's arrival was perfectly on time, but when Jenna opened the doors, she stiffened for a split second. Not because of their status, they were known regulars, but because one of them was visibly under the weather and discreetly signaled for off-menu modifications. I didn't hear the specifics yet, but I saw Maria's eyes dart toward me, the color draining from her face. I asked what was up, and she passed me a note. Guest allergic to citrus. Replace citrus glaze. No nuts. Wants vegan option. My brain ground to a halt. We'd spent weeks perfecting that quince glaze. Its bright, acidic pop was the linchpin to the pork belly's balance. And nuts? Those micro-herb garnishes had crushed almonds sprinkled throughout. Vegan? That was a whole separate world on our menu tonight. In a blink, a simple 3-course dinner had mutated into a jigsaw puzzle missing half its pieces. The clock ticked louder in my head as I scanned the line. Tony was plating the mushroom ragu, which was vegetarian but heavy on butter and cheese. Our pastry guy, Ricky, was already whisking eggs for panna cotta, which was chock full of dairy. We had no backup vegan custard, no citrus-free glaze in the walk-in, and certainly no nut-free microherbs. The dilemma was clear: satisfy the request or risk a serious health issue. And in our line of work, that's non-negotiable. But I also knew that half-stepping this order would be noticeable to these culinary connoisseurs. They expected excellence, no room for compromise. So I shouted, pulled tickets, and slammed a mug down on the pass. The brigade froze mid-motion, forks in the air, pan sizzling. For a second, you could have heard a pin drop over the exhaust. I took a breath, marshaled my thoughts, and blurted out the plan. Tony, pull back on the butter and switch to olive oil. Swap that parm for nutritional yeast if we have it, check inventory. Ricky, ditch the panna cotta, think fruit coulis on almond-free sorbet. Maria, you and I are on the glaze. We're going vegan on the spot. Let's test a maple ginger reduction. My command sounded decisive, but inside I was racing. I'd never pivoted so dramatically mid-service. And worse, I'd never done it for a VIP table. As we hustled, phones buzzed with new tickets, but we paused each one, triaging around the allergy orders. Pots clanged, spoons scraped, and every once in a while, I caught a glimpse of Jenna's tense smile as she fielded concerned looks from the dining room. Outside, the VIPs were sipping chilled water, unaware of the chaos. The heat in the kitchen was palpable. Sweat beaded on brows, arms burned from wok flames, and my own hands felt shaky. Yet through that stress, I felt something else, the team's focus. Maria slid me a small spoonful of the maple ginger glaze, smooth, just the right hint of sweet and heat, and I nodded. Tony dumped the cheese and butter, tossed in greens and olive oil, and lifted his chin as if to say, "Got it, boss." Ricky, surprisingly calm, scooped bright raspberry coulis over sorbet that actually looked vibrant on the plate. The clock was our enemy, but adrenaline was our ally. Still, the core dilemma remained. Would these substitutions honor the original concept, or would we lose the narrative we'd crafted with our seasonal menu? Could we pull off this transformation in real time and deliver a cohesive experience? I glanced at the ticket times, 20 minutes left, and realized we were gambling everything on improvisation. That's when I felt that old kitchen thrill. Pressure amplifies clarity. We had to trust our instincts, trust our craft, and trust each other. Because if we didn't, we weren't just messing up a dinner, we were breaking the pact between chef and diner. And above all, in that moment, I knew that this test would define us. So we leaned into the heat, pushed all doubts aside, and cooked like our lives depended on it. Then it happened, the moment when everything we'd scrambled to adjust either came together in a blaze of glory or went up in smoke. I was plating the vegan pork belly alternative, rolled seitan with that maple ginger glaze, when I heard it, the ticket printer chattering behind me, but not with the usual orders. Instead, it spat out a handwritten amendment. "Chef, make sure all plates to table 7 go exactly as discussed." My heart skipped. That was our VIP table, yes, but the emphasis felt like a loaded gunshot. I looked up and saw Jenna peeking through the pass, eyes wide, trying not to let panic show. Maria froze for half a second, mid-toss of microgreens. Tony's spatula hovered over the mushroom ragu. Ricky's coulis swirled in his bowl, untouched. We all knew it. No margin for error. Right then, a line cook spun past me, flames licking his jacket sleeve. We'd pushed the burners harder to speed things along, and sparks had flown. I shushed him steady, but inside, my chest was tightening. And then, of all things, my wrist brushed the edge of a hot pan. I jerked, almost dropping the plate. I still get goosebumps thinking about the sizzle of that hot metal against my skin, the flash of pain that shot up my arm. But there was no time to cuss or to pause. I sucked in a breath, flicked my wrist, and kept plating. Because in that split second, I realized something. This wasn't just about a modified menu or fancy techniques. It was about proving that our kitchen could adapt under fire, literally and figuratively. So I took a steadying breath, let the adrenaline sharpen my focus, and barked out orders. "Maria, wipe that edge, clean presentation." "Tony, I need one more garnish on the ragu, right-hand side." "Ricky, finish that sorbet and get it out, now." The brigade snapped into motion, a synchronized ballet of urgency and precision. Plates flew to the pass, each one looking like a masterpiece born of crisis. When the last dish landed, I grabbed it, felt the heat radiate through the porcelain, and man, I'll never forget that moment. I realized we'd done it. But before I could exhale, Jenna tapped my shoulder. "Table 7, she said, voice low. My gut twisted. I nodded, grabbed the tickets, and headed out to the dining room. Walking past those linen-draped tables, soft lighting, the hum of muted conversation, it felt surreal. I balanced the first plate in my hand, then the next, until I was carrying 4 like a stack of records. My eyes met the VIPs, a well-known director whose films I admired, and beside him, a tech CEO with a reputation for zero tolerance on service. Their expressions were neutral, unreadable. I set the plates down, heart hammering. There was a pause, longer than I expected. Then the director lifted a fork, took a bite of that seitan, and his eyebrows shot up. He looked at me surprised. I held my breath. Then he smiled, nodded, and muttered, "That's impressive." The table erupted into appreciative murmurs. Relief crashed through me like a tidal wave. I felt sweat trickle down my back, but my legs were shaking. Back in the kitchen, Maria exhaled so loud I heard it over the exhaust. Tony grinned, clapped me on the shoulder. Ricky cracked a rare smile, and Jenna gave me a thumbs up from the host stand. In that electric second, I realized we'd not only survived the storm, we'd harnessed it. We'd turned chaos into creativity, stress into synergy. That night, I learned something crucial. No matter how seasoned you are, the true test is how you face the unexpected. And when you face it with a team you trust, you can pull off miracles under pressure. So yeah, that was the turning point, the knife-edge moment when I thought we might sink, but we didn't. We soared. And let me ask you, when was a time you had to improvise under pressure and came out on top? Drop your story in the comments. I want to hear how you handled your kitchen storms. After that electric moment at the table, we hustled back into the kitchen, still buzzing, still sweaty, but with a new energy coursing through us. The rest of service felt almost serene in comparison to the high-wire act we'd just pulled off. Maria and I exhaled together as the next tickets arrived, and I realized we'd shifted the whole kitchen's mindset. Improvisation had become our greatest asset, not our biggest fear. Tony, usually taciturn, let out a whoop and slid another plate across the pass, bragging that he'd just invented a new riff on that ragu that might stick on the menu. Ricky, meanwhile, was already dreaming aloud of pairing that sorbet with seasonal stone fruits in the summer. Ideas that, just an hour ago, would have sounded crazy in the middle of a VIP emergency. Jenna even treated us to a round of celebratory espresso shots, back-of-house style, slamming cups down on the drawer with a grin that said, "We nailed it." As the clock ticked past 10, the flood of diners thinned out, and by the time we shut down the fryers and wiped the counters, everyone felt a quiet pride that hung in the cool kitchen air like a familiar aroma. We gathered around the long prep table, hands covered in olive oil and sauce drips, and for the first time that night, we laughed, raw, unfiltered laughter that echoed off the stainless steel walls. We went through every moment. The fear when the citrus allergy note landed, the flash of pain when I burned my wrist, the collective gasp when Tony swapped out the cheese, and the silent nods when we tasted that first maple ginger glaze and knew it was gold. It wasn't just about surviving a tough service. It was about the proof that our team could trust one another under fire. I looked at each of them, the line cooks, Maria, Tony, Ricky, even the prep guy who'd been mostly in the shadows, and felt more connection than I had on any easy night of perfect execution. That's when I realized the real win wasn't a thumbs up from a VIP. It was the strength and unity we built in that pressure cooker. The next day, managers from other properties whispered about our kitchen's miracle run, and Jenna told me the director had sent a heartfelt thank you note to the restaurant's inbox. One of our regulars, a food critic who preferred anonymity, slipped into the dining room post-service and quietly praised our creativity. For me, though, the biggest reward was seeing the pride in my team's eyes. We closed for the night with a quick debrief, always one last check to see what we could learn, and I encouraged everyone to sleep on their ideas for menu tweaks. I told them that if this challenge taught me anything, it's that we should welcome the unexpected, because real creativity blooms when you're forced to think on your feet. By the end of that weekend, we had half a dozen new specials inspired by that one crisis. Some went on to become customer favorites, and one even made it onto a local best of list for the month. As for me, I tucked away that burned wrist twinge as a badge of honor and made a mental note to keep my first aid kit within arm's reach. More importantly, I walked into every subsequent service with a renewed respect for the unpredictable, knowing it's in those chaotic moments that a team truly makes its mark. So that's how it ended, not with fireworks or fanfare, but with a simple nod of mutual respect, a few new dishes that carried the spirit of that night, and a lesson engraved in our collective memory. When the heat is on, trust your craft, trust your crew, and let the kitchen show you what it's made of. To be honest, in the days after that night, I felt like I'd run a marathon in boots. My muscles ached, my wrist throbbed every time I grabbed a pan, and I kept replaying each moment in my head, like a movie I couldn't switch off. But along with the physical reminders came something deeper, a sense of clarity about who I am as a chef and a leader. I still get goosebumps thinking about the way my team rallied, the way we turned a potential disaster into what every chef dreams of, an improvised triumph. You know, there's a part of me that's always chased perfection, that's obsessed with nailing every detail. After that night, I realized perfection isn't about rigid plans. It's about how you respond when the plan falls apart. That shift in perspective stuck with me. I noticed I was calmer in the kitchen the next week, even when the dinner rush felt impossible. I'd catch myself smiling at a past crisis, thinking, hey, we've been here before, and we nailed it. More than anything, it changed how I talked to my crew. I started leaning into those learning moments in service, calling everyone together after a tough table or a surprise ticket. I'd say, remember that October night? This is our chance to practice what we learned. It became our rallying cry. Improvise, respect each other, trust the craft. Outside of work, I found myself reflecting on that week in small ways. At home, I cooked dinner for my family without worrying if the plating was perfect. I tossed ingredients together, tasted, adjusted, just cooking for love of it. My daughter asked, Dad, why aren't you freaking out about the mess? And I laughed, realizing I was passing on that same lesson. Sometimes chaos is where the magic lies. Professionally, I took on new challenges with more confidence. Guest chef pop-ups, collaborations with local farmers, even a charity event where we served 300 plates from a makeshift kitchen. Each time I felt pressure creeping in, I'd remember that VIP's nod of approval when I thought we might fail. It reminded me that our best work comes from the fire, not from the safety of routine. So yeah, the aftertaste of that night wasn't just the burn on my wrist. It was a fusion of pride, humility, and excitement for what's next. It reshaped my own definition of success and bonded our kitchen team in ways I never expected. And every time I step into that kitchen now, I carry that lesson with me. Embrace the unexpected, because that's where you'll find your greatest strengths. Honestly, what I took away from that night wasn't some lofty motto. It was a grounded reminder that in any kitchen, or really in any part of life, control is an illusion. You can prep every ingredient, plan each move, but sooner or later something out of left field will land on your station. And when it does, your success hinges on how you adapt, how you trust the people sweating beside you, and how you lean into that pressure instead of running from it. I realized that true leadership isn't about barking orders from behind a desk. It's about rolling up your sleeves, sharing the risk, and showing your team that you believe in them and in yourself when the heat is on. It taught me to see challenges not as threats to my pride, but as invitations to innovate. Every surprise order, every allergy note, every burned wrist is a chance to learn something new, to test the limits of creativity under fire. And I learned to celebrate those wild moments as much as the smooth nights, because they forge resilience and unity in a way calm service never can. So yeah, if there's one lesson I carry with me now, it's this. Don't fear the unexpected. Welcome it. Treat it like a collaborator, not an enemy. Because when you do, you'll discover strengths in yourself and your team that you never knew existed. And in a kitchen, or anywhere really, that can make all the difference. In the weeks and months that followed, that October night took on almost mythical status in our kitchen. Our regulars started asking about the famous emergency menu, and I'd catch new line cooks whispering in the corner, "Did you hear how he burned his wrist and held it together?" Even Maria, who's seen more madness in our kitchen than anyone, would smirk whenever a curveball order came in and say, "Boss, remember your burn?" It became shorthand for what we do best, pivot under pressure and still deliver excellence. But more importantly, it changed how I approached every service. I began each shift with a quick, what-if huddle, just a 2-minute drill to imagine the worst-case allergy alerts or ingredient shortages and brainstorm rapid fixes. That mental exercise didn't add stress. It actually brought a sense of calm, like we'd already rehearsed the surprises before they hit. We also formalized a little tech in our line, shared tablets for real-time notes on allergens and last-minute tweaks, so nothing slipped through the cracks. Beyond the kitchen, the story spread through the local culinary scene. A food blogger I respect wrote a feature on how small restaurants can handle VIP demands, using our night as a case study. That hit social media, and suddenly we were fielding requests to cater private events and pop-up dinners in Brooklyn and Jersey City. I turned many of those down because I wanted to protect our home base, but a few collaborations felt right, especially the charity fundraiser where we tested some of the improvised dishes in a high-stakes, high-volume environment. Each time, I'd glance at my team and think back to that service. If we could nail it then, we could handle anything. Personally, I noticed a shift in how I define success. I stopped measuring by flawless service and started measuring by our ability to learn and adapt. On slow lunches, I'd challenge my cooks with small, playful curveballs, a mystery box, a surprise ingredient, just to keep the improvisation muscle strong. And whenever a newbie joined the crew, I'd tell them the maple ginger glaze story first. It wasn't just about technique, it was about grit, trust, and creativity under fire. Today, whenever a ticket printer coughs up a tricky order, there's a collective grin and a spark in the brigade's eyes. Because deep down, we all know our kitchen's finest hour wasn't a smooth night. It was the night we turned chaos into our greatest asset. And that lesson continues to shape every dish we serve. All right, folks, here's the thing. Kitchens are wild, unpredictable places, and the real magic happens when the heat is on and you're forced to throw the playbook out the window. We talked about burned wrists, allergy curveballs, and midnight improvisation, but at its core, this story isn't just about food. It's about how we handle life's surprises when everything's on the line. Maybe you've never had to reroute a VIP dinner in 10 minutes flat, but we all face unexpected moments at work, at home, in relationships, where the choice is the same, panic or pivot. So here's my challenge to you. Think of the last time something completely derailed your plan. What did you do? Did you freeze? Or did you find a way to make it work? I'll be honest, I'm still learning, still tweaking my approach, and I guarantee my team is too. That's the beauty of this craft. We're never done, never perfect, and that's exactly why it stays exciting. Now I want to hear from you. What's the craziest curveball you've ever faced? And how did you dig deep to turn it into something unexpectedly awesome? Drop it in the comments below, and let's swap war stories. Who knows? Your twist might just inspire someone else to embrace the chaos instead of fearing it. So go ahead, make me a little uncomfortable and share your story. I'm all ears.